So I want to say, when Professor DeGioia called Josh doctor, it sort of made my heart stop for a second. I feel incredibly happy and honored to be able to introduce Josh. And I just want to tell a quick story about how that came about. I got a message from Shiva saying something like, you need to see me right away. This is really important. So I was a little scared because Shiva is sometimes a tiny bit scary. So I went to her office immediately, and we sat down in her office, and she said, now, Elizabeth, I'm going to tell you something, but I don't want you, and she said this, to scream. And I said, well, I doubt that I'm going to scream, Shiva. And she said, I'm going to ask you to introduce the speaker at Lavender Graduation. And I said, that's wonderful. And she said, but when I tell you who it is, you might scream. I said, I'm not going to scream. And she said, it's Josh Guzman, and I screamed. So I've known Josh. So Josh came to Georgetown as a community scholar in the summer of 2006. He is from the Rio Grande Valley in Texas. I don't know how many of you know the Valley at all, but not many, huh? You and me, Josh. So my first job out of college was teaching in the Rio Grande Valley. And so when I met Josh, I felt just this instant connection. If you don't know the Valley, you need to know it's not part of Texas, it's not part of Mexico, and it's not part of the United States. It's its own place, and Josh is from there. So you know that currently, can y'all hear me? Okay. So you know that currently Josh is an assistant professor of gender studies at UCLA, did his PhD at NYU. And I have a lot of memories of Josh because I taught him in 3 classes, and we were pretty close. In the summer, in the Community Scholars Program, I have this memory. He came here to study politics. And I have this memory of him. We were at Leo's with half the class, and we were talking about Plato and Socrates and a dialogue of Socrates that we read. And I looked up at Josh, and I just saw this radiant intelligence, but also with the shimmer of the Rio Grande Valley. And it was just this amazing moment for me. So last night, I had dinner with Josh, and he's like, I don't remember that at all. So whatever. Okay. So later, when Josh was in my feminist theory class, it became clear that politics per se, no offense, SFS, was maybe not exactly what he wanted to do at Georgetown. He discovered theory. He was incredibly talented at theory. And during his time here, what he did was he put his theory into practice, and he understood very early on that the personal is political. And the kind of work that Josh did here was radical political work. He worked with Mecha. He worked with almost every radical movement on the campus. Later on, Josh took my motherhood class. It's a class called Reading Motherhood, and it's both an English class and it is a women and gender studies class. And I want you to know, and I think it's really important for students to know, because I think we older people already know this, that none of us is perfect. Josh was not 100% perfect. So it was the spring of his senior year. So we have summer of his first year and this radiant intelligence, which of course continued throughout his 4 years. But it was spring of senior year. It was late. He was a senior. The class was in the afternoon. And Josh was such an important part of that class. And I looked over, and he was sitting up straight, and I kind of wanted to make eye contact about whatever point we were making. And he was just blissfully asleep. And you have to know that if you go to sleep in one class one time, it's okay. It doesn't mean that you won't be an incredibly successful doctor. All right, the last thing, where are my timekeepers, Alondra and Daisy? Okay, I want to just say one last thing. It was a great, great gift to have Josh as a student, but it's an even greater gift to know that Josh is a teacher and that there are students who are in his classes. So thank you.